Hello. Are we on? Sorry for the technical glitch, everybody. So good afternoon. Welcome to today's LinkedIn Live, slightly later than planned session from Forrester. My name is Martin Gill, I'm Research Director, and I'm joined by my colleagues here, Michelle Beeson and Clarissa Skinner. Say hello.
Hello.
Thank you. So we're going to be discussing the results of Forrester's 2020 Customer Experience Index Survey in Europe. If you've got any thoughts or any questions, please add them in the comment functionality on your screen. So let's explain what the Customer Experience Index is first before we get started. So every year we collect a mountain of data around the globe around consumers' perception about a range of brands. And this year in Europe, we've studied UK, France, Italy, and Spain banking and insurance brands. So we've gone quite specialized in what we've gone looking for. And what we're measuring is how easy, effective, and emotional the customer experiences that brands provide are. But we try to link beyond easy, effective, and emotional into actual business metrics like acquisition, retention, and advocacy. So things that actually matter to your business and drive revenue and profitability. So I want to start there. Can you guys explain to us, like, how do we get from easy, effective, emotion to the business metrics of like retention?
Yeah, absolutely. I can start with that. I think, our research has shown that, easy, effective, and emotional are the three most important factors for customer loyalty. And customer loyalty is, of course, a choice. But also the emotion is a very important element of impacting the customer index score. And we have algorithms that are specialized for each specific industry. So for banking and insurance separately, to understand the context and nuances of that particular industry. And then understanding the impact of those three elements on not just advocacy, which, NPS is a metric that would just look at consumers, propensity to recommend a brand, but we also consider its impact on retention and on enrichment. So the likelihood that customers will spend more with you over time and remain your customers and remain loyal.
And this is tailored by industry, right?
It is, yes, it is. And importantly, it's also based on the customer's own perceptions of their interactions with individual brands, as opposed to our, removed assessment of that.
Right. And there's a kind of algorithm that sits behind each of the industries working out. So retail is different to financial, so banking is different to airlines in terms of what drives advocacy and loyalty within those industries.
Yes. Well, in terms of the relative influence of effectiveness, ease, and emotion.
Yeah. So we'll dig into like kind of what that looks like as we go through.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I said at the start, we surveyed consumers across UK, France, Italy, Spain. We've looked at banking and insurance. So what did we learn? Who's leading and why are they leading?
Well, maybe to start off with the banks. So overall, when we look at banking in these four countries, we see that mutuals and direct banks outperform traditional incumbents in each market. It's not just by a little bit either. There's large divides separating these top scoring mutuals and directs from the rest of the pack. And we know this is actually a trend we've observed in other years as well. We know that for mutuals, for example, not having quarterly pressure from shareholders lets them take a longer view of the benefit for their members and involve them in business decisions. And that has led to great customer experiences. And what does that mean? That kind of means that we expect that banking customers' expectations are going to rise as these brands continue to pull away from the pack and deliver great experiences. And maybe just highlight two in particular. There's Monzo and First Direct. These are the first brands in European banking to achieve CX index scores in the excellent category. And they've gotten to CX excellence through two really different paths. So just to give you an idea, Monzo, if you've had an interaction with Monzo, you probably know this, but they have really excelled at just creating a really strong emotional link to their customers. And when we look at our CX index, we see that they deliver 38.5 positive experiences for every negative experience. That puts them head and shoulders above the rest of the banks in the index when it comes to delivering emotional experiences, which as Michelle mentioned, is really important for driving great customer experience. First Direct, known for excellent customer service, and we also see that in our index. We see that we look at kind of some drivers to determine, okay, what actually has an impact on CX quality. For First Direct, on customer service related drivers, they are the ones that are just head and shoulders above everyone else. So achieving excellent CX, these two top brands through very different means.
Okay, so this kind of starts to unpick the drivers sit beneath like website or customer service or respects me as a customer, a thing you see as kind of important drivers out of brands. But you mentioned something I want to dig into. You said these two brands are the first brands to achieve excellence. So slightly esoteric question, but what is excellence in this context?
Well, besides being kind of a qualitative excellent CX, it's actually based on, it's also statistical, determining whether a brand is in the category of excellent, good, okay, poor, or very poor. We actually look at a normal distribution of scores. So excellence means that they're in that top category of brands that are farthest from the mean, farthest from the average. If that answers your question.
Yeah, and adding to that, the scores are 0 to 100, so it's the normal distribution and putting those categories. But it's interesting because when we have that, it is very unusual, and even for retail, to have a brand that achieves the excellent category. Most are, if they're very good experiences, they tend to achieve a good level. But from, segue a little bit into the insurance results that we've had, when we've looked at the CX index scores for brands within our insurance evaluations, actually most of the brands sit at okay. So they're clustered around very similar levels of CX index scores, really indicating that across Europe, there's mediocre, but also not very differentiated customer experiences across different auto and home insurance brands. But again, kind of like banking, there are two brands that are ahead of the rest of the pack, and they're both in the UK again, and that's RSA and Allianz. And Allianz also includes LV as a brand, since they acquired them in December last year. And those particular brands, again, have different ways of achieving that higher level of customer experience index. For RSA, it is that customer care is just part of their brand values. They're focused on improving technology and investing in that to improve customer experience, but also they are unique in that they use distributors to sell to customers. And so they're very selective about the brands they choose to work with and partner with, and make sure that those brands align in terms of the similar values of customer care and business values that they have.
Okay, cool. We've got a question on the chat as well, so I'll kind of address that as we're going along. If I ask another question about what you're talking about. Someone's asked, when can we get access to the research reports on this? So they will be launching at our CX EMEA forum, which is on the 17th and 18th of November. So they'll go live at the forum with a bit more in-depth discussions about what it means, what are the scores, etc. And there's also a website that you can go and look up your score if you're in the survey, which I believe there's a link in the chat here. And if there isn't, someone can post one to that. So you can go and check your score out. So I'll talk about CXMA later on again, but join us at the forum for more details.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, so you kind of dug into, you started to kind of describing the situation where we've got this kind of rump of brands which are pretty similar, and so there's a clear opportunity if everybody's looking the same. There's a relatively easy opportunity for brands to start differentiating by not massive change, relatively small scale change. So where's the opportunity, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, well, no, absolutely. And particularly in insurance, since a lot of the brands are clustered in similar scores, making relatively small changes can have a significant impact on the overall customer experience scores, but also contribute to leapfrogging and real differentiation from other brands, as you said. And part of the customer experience index and the evaluations we have includes delving into what are some of the more specific elements of what channels or touch points are contributing to a customer's overall experience assessment. So we also look at and we evaluate how easy, how effective, and how positive the emotional positive or negative, the emotional experiences for consumers when they're interacting with each brand across different touch points. So what is that experience across on the phone versus on the website versus on a mobile app or website or in a branch, if that's a touch point that's available for a particular organization? And because bearing in mind for some of the brands we've included in these, they're not necessarily, they don't necessarily have physical branches. They're online only, and digital banks, etc.
And then this starts to look different across Europe, doesn't it? Different countries and consumers in different countries react differently to the different channels.
It's definitely
Absolutely.
true. That's something that we really actually see very strongly in insurance. So as Michelle mentioned, we look at how experiences differ in terms of the 3 E's: effective, easy, and emotional, across all these different channels and touch points. And when we look to Italy, France, and Spain, we see that customers really have the most easy and effective experiences when they're having a person-to-person interaction. That might be in person, that might be over the phone, but that person-to-person element is what customers value in terms of ease and effectiveness. In the UK, we know that UK customers in auto and home insurance are much more likely to use digital touchpoints. And in fact, we have some data that says 57% of Italians open insurance policies in person compared to only 4% of UK customers. And that kind of comes out. UK customers say the website is the most easy and effective way to do business with auto and home insurers. But when it comes to emotion, even in the UK, customers say that having an in-person interaction elicits the most positive emotions when they're interacting with their insurer. And emotion is the most important of 3 E's. And it's looking at kind of things like that of where can you make experiences more effective, easy, and especially emotionally positive for customers that can help you differentiate in terms of customer experience. So in person or in kind of not in
Human
these
to
days,
human.
of course, but human to human interactions are really important for sure.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
think this starts getting into how brands can use this, because obviously we're flying it 3 levels here. We've got a score, which is to some extent a beauty parade score of like 0 to 100, where do you rank? So that's helpful. Then we've got this easy, effective, emotional dimension of how that plays into loyalty, advocacy, etc. But where you're getting to is the really actionable stuff, which is the drivers per channel of what differentiates you as a brand and what your customers need. So as a brand, how do you apply this in a way that's more than just an academic, oh, well, that's interesting?
Yeah. Well, to the examples that Clarissa gave, for any organization, they're going to have a range of different touch points and customer journeys and objectives that they're catering to. And having a way or something to contribute to how you can prioritize or understand of all of these different journeys, elements of experiences and touch points. What change is going to have the most impact on customer experience? What is the most important of all of those things for customers? So it can help you to prioritize of the long list of things that you could possibly do. What is going to be the most impactful based on your industry, based on your country, and based on your particular brand and the customer experiences that consumers are telling us they're having related to ease, effective, and emotional.
And compared to other brands as well, because
and compared to other brands, yes.
There's a return on investment thing about whether you're already ahead of the competition, even though you could get better. What's the payback of getting even better at a thing that you're already good at?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a question in the chat, which is an interesting one, about we've mentioned branches, agents, call centers, websites, etc. What about like emerging touch points like AI apps or chatbots or that kind of thing? Are we including those kind of things in this data?
Yeah, in banking, for example, there are a range of touch points that are included. I would say it also depends on how you're defining. I'd say AI or augmented reality is going to be probably part of a web-based or mobile-based experience. But certainly chat interactions is something that we do evaluate. And actually, interestingly, if we're looking specifically at emotion across countries, in France, the most positive experiences that customers have are through chat features. So yes, we do look at those different elements.
And we're constantly looking at kind of what's mainstream, what's emerging, what's so edge use case that there's no point in measuring it because it's really just experimental.
Yeah, and also it's good to point out that we don't just do the customer experience index, we can prioritize, but in terms of understanding within particular touch points, what are the features and functionalities that are going to create a good customer experience. We're also able to, support customer journey mapping. We do, user testing, user evaluations of different touch points, and understanding the evolution of different technologies like AR or VR and things like that.
Yeah, that's a fair point, because this flies at the level of kind of which touch points and experiences and journeys drive that emotional connection with customers, but how do you build a great app? Features, functionality, UX, usability, etc., is a kind of click down, which we have a different methodology to assess. What this is allowing us to do is say, in country X, mobile app is super important, therefore you should pay a lot of attention to it, versus country Y, it's all about the contact center, for instance.
Right. And just to add, it's what your customers say is important. So from the customer perspective, whether they're talking to a chatbot that's powered by AI, from their perspective, is this an easy, effective, and emotional experience? It's from their that outside in perspective as well.
Yeah, that's an
absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's go back to basics and kind of summarize what this is about. So I don't know which one of you wants to kind of take this, but we haven't got slides. So it's worth just going back to easy, effective, and emotional. What are we measuring? Remind people what we're measuring here.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's going back to what you and I said right at the very beginning. It's understanding of the most important factors that contribute to a customer's, loyalty or experience. Is this the ease? So how easy is it to interact with the organization? How effective is their experience? So were they able to, meet their objectives? Did that experience meet their needs? And then the emotional element, like how positive or negative was that emotion? What were they left feeling? Were they frustrated and annoyed, or did they feel respected and valued? And that contributes to the overall experience of a customer. And that customer experience, the relative level of it, will then influence not just advocacy, but how many customers you're going to retain and the value of all those customers and the enrichment opportunities over time.
So we can link the customer's perception of your brand to what does it mean in terms of what are they likely to do? Will they stay with you? Will they spend more money? Will they advocate for your brand with their friends and family?
Yeah. And then the click down of understanding how those elements of ease, effectiveness, and emotion play out across your touch points, across different markets, to help understand what you can do and prioritize to further improve your overall customer experience and therefore your customer value and retention and loyalty.
Awesome. Right. Thank you to both of you. Apologies to everyone for the slightly delayed start with the technical glitch that we had, but for those of you who are still with us, if you want to learn more, if you want to see where your brand is ranked, if you're a financial services brand across Europe, and if we've surveyed your brands, we surveyed how many brands? I can't remember offhand.
Lots.
7 right brands per sector per country.
57?
57 brands in Europe in total, exactly. Yeah.
I should know that off the top of my head. One of the 57 brands, you can go and check that out on our website. The link is in the chat. So that's kind of where we wanted to talk about today. I appreciate this is quite a high level summary of what we've done over the last couple of months with running these surveys. If you want to know more, please contact us, get in touch. We'll give you more details. Also, if you want to learn more about customer experience in general, about some of the things we talked about, like digital experience reviews, like journey mapping, like bigger picture topics about kind of where is all this going, the future of buying, the future of all sorts of different things, check us out at CX EMEA. So we're running a big virtual forum. We used to do it in London, but obviously with the current situation, we're running a virtual event this year. It's designed for consumer marketing and customer experience professionals, and we really be digging into the alignment between the kind of world of customer experience, the world of employee experience, and the world of marketing as these three areas come together this year and into next year. So there should be a link in the scrolling banner on your screens right now for that. Other than that, all that remains to say is thank you very much, Michelle and Clarissa, and thank you to all of us who joined us. Have an awesome